Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Better Talk English. I'm Victoria, and today we're going to talk about something very practical and useful in everyday life. Hi, William. How are you doing today?
Hi, Victoria. I'm doing great, thank you. Actually, I just came back from a shopping trip, so this topic feels very relevant. I had a few interesting experiences there.
Oh, perfect timing then. Shopping is something everyone does, but many learners don't know how to talk about it naturally in English. It's a great topic to practice real conversation.
That's true, because even simple situations can feel difficult. For example, asking about prices or sizes sometimes feels stressful. You don't want to sound awkward.
Exactly. But the good news is that shopping English is usually very simple and repetitive. Once you learn a few key phrases, you can handle most situations. It's very practical language.
So let's start with a basic situation. Imagine you walk into a store and you want to ask for something. What would you say?
A very common and natural question is, do you have this in another size, or do you have this in a different color? These are simple and very useful.
That sounds easy to remember, and I guess tone matters too. You want to sound polite, so maybe you can add please at the end.
Yes, politeness is very important in these situations. You can also say, could you help me find this in a larger size? That sounds even more polite and professional.
I like that. It feels more complete. Sometimes I also hear people say, I'm just looking. What does that mean exactly?
Good question. That's a very common phrase. It means you are not ready to buy yet. You are only exploring. It helps you avoid pressure from the staff.
Ah, that makes sense. So if someone asks, can I help you? You can say, I'm just looking. That sounds natural.
Exactly. And when you are ready to ask something, you can change your approach. For example, actually, I'm looking for a jacket. That shows your intention clearly.
That's very practical. Another situation I often face is asking about price. Sometimes I don't see a price tag.
In that case, you can simply ask, how much is this? Or how much does this cost? Both are correct and commonly used.
Simple and clear. I like that. And what if something feels too expensive? Is there a polite way to say that?
Yes, instead of saying this is too expensive, you can say it's a bit out of my budget. That sounds more natural and polite.
That's a great phrase. It sounds softer. I think tone and word choice really matter in these situations. It changes how people react.
Exactly. And another useful situation is trying something on. You can ask, where is the fitting room? Or can I try this on? These are very common.
That's very useful because trying clothes is a big part of shopping. I think with just these phrases, people can already handle many real situations. It feels much more manageable now.
Let's take it a step further and imagine a real situation. You walk into a clothing store and you see something you like, but you're not sure about the size. What would you do first?
I think I would approach a staff member and ask for help. Maybe I would say, "Excuse me, could you help me with this?" That sounds polite and clear.
Yes, that's a great way to start. Then you can continue with something specific like, do you have this in medium? Or is this available in another size? That keeps the conversation natural.
I notice that most of these phrases are quite simple. You don't need complex grammar to communicate effectively. It's more about knowing what to say in the moment.
Exactly. And confidence grows when you know these small patterns. Another useful situation is when you want an opinion. You can ask, does this look good on me?
Oh, that's interesting because it's more personal. You're inviting someone to give feedback. That makes the interaction more natural and friendly.
Yes, and sometimes the staff might suggest something else. They might say, you might like this one instead. It's useful to understand these suggestions.
So it's not just about speaking, but also understanding responses. That's an important part of real communication. You need both sides.
Exactly. And let's talk about buying something. When you decide to purchase, the conversation changes slightly. You might hear, are you paying by cash or card?
Right, and then you simply answer by card or by cash. That part is usually straightforward, but it still helps to be familiar with the phrases.
Yes, and sometimes they might ask, do you need a bag or would you like a receipt? These are very common at checkout.
That's true, and if you don't understand these questions, it can feel awkward. But once you know them, everything becomes easier. It's all predictable.
Exactly, and predictability is your advantage. Shopping conversations follow patterns, so you can prepare in advance. That builds confidence.
Let's do a quick mini role play. I'll be the customer, and you'll be the shop assistant. I think that will make it more realistic.
Great idea. Hello, can I help you find something today? We have new arrivals in the jacket section.
Hi, yes, I'm looking for a light jacket for everyday use. Do you have something in a medium size?
Yes, we do. Here's one that's very popular right now. You can try it on in the fitting room over there.
Thank you. I'll try it. Also, does this come in a different color? I'm looking for something a bit darker.
Yes, we have it in black and dark blue as well. Let me bring those options for you so you can compare.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This already feels like a real conversation, and it's actually quite simple when you break it down.
That role play shows something important. Shopping conversations are not complicated, but many learners still feel nervous. The problem is often not language, but hesitation.
Yes, I think people are afraid of making mistakes. They want to sound perfect, so they end up saying nothing. That's a common pattern.
Exactly. And one of the biggest mistakes is overthinking. You don't need perfect grammar in a store. You just need clear and simple communication.
Another mistake is speaking too quietly or not confidently. Even if your sentence is correct, low confidence can make communication harder. People might not understand you clearly.
That's true, and confidence often comes from preparation. If you already know a few key phrases, you feel more relaxed. You don't panic in the moment.
So preparation builds confidence, and confidence improves communication. That's a powerful connection. It makes everything smoother.
Yes, and another important tip is to listen carefully. Sometimes learners focus only on what they want to say, but understanding the other person is just as important.
That's a good point, because communication is always two-sided. If you don't understand the question, you can't give the right answer. Listening is part of speaking.
Exactly. And if you don't understand something, it's completely okay to ask. You can say, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" Or "Could you say that a bit slower?"
Those are very useful phrases, and they show confidence too. You're not pretending to understand, you are managing the conversation actively.
Yes, and that's what real communication is about. It's not about being perfect, it's about interacting naturally. Mistakes are part of the process.
Another mistake I've noticed is translating everything in your head. That slows you down and makes you nervous. It breaks your natural flow.
Exactly. And instead of translating, you should think in simple English. Use short phrases you already know. That makes your speech faster and more natural.
So it's better to say something simple and clear than something complex and confusing. That's a big mindset shift. It makes speaking easier.
Yes, and the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. You won't need to think so much. Your responses will come naturally.
I think practice in real situations is the best way to improve. Even small interactions help. Every time you speak, you gain experience.
Exactly. And shopping is actually a great place to practice. The conversations are short, predictable, and low pressure. It's a perfect learning environment.
That's true, because you don't need long conversations. Just a few sentences are enough. That makes it less stressful.
And over time, those small conversations build confidence. What feels difficult at first becomes normal later. That's how progress happens.
So, to summarize, focus on simple phrases, stay calm, and don't aim for perfection. Communication is the goal, not perfect grammar. That's the key idea.
Yes, and also remember to be polite and natural. Small words like please and thank you make a big difference. They improve the interaction. And don't forget to listen carefully and respond clearly. That keeps the conversation flowing. It makes everything feel more natural.
Exactly. And once you start enjoying these small interactions, learning becomes easier. It stops feeling like a task. It becomes part of your daily life.
I really like that idea because language should be used, not just studied. Real situations are the best classroom. That's where real progress happens.
All right, I think this is a great point to start wrapping up. We covered practical phrases, common mistakes, and useful strategies. That's a strong foundation.
Yes, and hopefully now shopping in English feels less stressful and more manageable. You don't need perfect English to handle these situations, you just need confidence and practice.
If you take one thing from today, focus on being clear and simple. Don't overthink your sentences, just communicate your idea.
And remember, every small conversation is progress. Even asking one question in English is a step forward. That's how improvement works.
Thank you so much for listening to Better Talk English. We really appreciate your time. Keep practicing and stay consistent.
We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep speaking, stay confident, and enjoy using English in real life.
Goodbye, everyone, and see you next time.